Hey, what's going on, guys? So today I am going to be doing something a little different from what I normally do, and that is because I'm going to be attempting a shape mod out of clay, or air drying clay. And what I'm trying to achieve here is a sort of starfish shape on the cube, and I wasn't really sure how to do that, so I got myself some air drying clay and some clay tools and just saw what I could do. So I've never used clay or air drying clay or acrylic paint, as you'll see me use later on. So hopefully this works, I guess. Okay, so I started by making a ball shape and flattening it down, and then I would use that to make 5 cuts around the sides, and you can probably guess that's to pinch the legs into a starfish looking shape. You can see here I got a lot more clay than I needed, so I am cutting off probably 50% of the clay I started with. So after I got a shape that I liked, I called it a night and looked up how to keep clay wet, and I found that you have to keep a damp, wet towel onto any exposed clay parts and then basically vacuum seal it in a Ziploc bag. So the next night, I did some details with the tools and also some stippling with a push pin. Okay, so now I molded the shape onto the cube so I could set the position before the clay dried. And some places were drying after I bent them too far, so I just used some water and some of the rubber tools and smoothed out those cracks. So the next night I split the starfish into 9 pieces, and it was pretty hard. I tried using this clay tool, which worked okay, but it started roughening up all the edges. So later I would realize I have to fill in those edges and sand them down, which took a long time. Okay, so after another day, I waited for it to dry and tried hot gluing the pieces to the stickers. And I made one big mistake, which is that I left the clay on the table, so that means the table side of the clay was not dry and it was completely wet, and it just dried the hot glue immediately. So I had to wait another night to dry the clay, and it was getting pretty late, so the next morning I tried it again, and it worked. So I proceeded to glue on the rest of the pieces. Okay, so now I realized that the clay pieces were not in line with the plastic piece on the cube, so I got a bunch of clay and just filled it a bit over the pieces so I could sand it down after they were dry. So after I filled all the pieces, you didn't see this, I couldn't wait another day, so I put them out on a baking sheet and under the sun, and they baked for a couple hours, so that was pretty cool. Okay, so now I took out some sandpaper and just started sanding down every piece individually. And this took a while. You can see I moved to another place because it started getting my room all dusty. But eventually it was worth it because the cube turned a lot more smoothly. Okay, so after I finished all the sanding, I just went through each piece and cleaned off the dust with a wet paper towel, just to not get any dust into the mechanism after I put the cube together. So after everything was done, I assembled the cube, and I found that the cube was pretty hard to turn. I didn't sand every piece enough, apparently, and it started creating huge gaps between each piece. So I took it apart and sanded it again. After I sanded it again, I apparently lost a piece, so I took out some clay and just filled in the piece as best as I could. Okay, so the next morning I glued the piece on and everything was looking great, so I started painting. So this is regular acrylic paint. I don't use acrylic paint at all, so I just used what I knew about colors and tried to get something that worked. So what I was aiming at here was a sort of turquoisey color in the middle that's slowly gradating to blue, to purple on the tips. And then after that, I realized it was kind of bland, so I took out an X-Acto knife and just stippled some dots on the sides and the tips of the starfish. And after I started painting, I realized that clay is pretty hard to paint. And because there's so many cracks and crevices in the clay, I had to go over each place like 2 or 3 times just to get all the paint. So maybe next time I'll use epoxy sculpt, I don't know. But if you guys like this video, then I'll probably try epoxy sculpt next time. Okay, so that is about it, guys. This is the final product, and I was very happy with my first shape mod. I think it looks really cool. The turning is pretty good. It locks up sometimes on the clay pieces, but you can easily turn it fine. But yeah, and so that is about it, guys. Hope you guys like this type of video. If you did, please comment down below, and of course like and subscribe. I'll see you next week. Bye.